dear little ones. Welcome back to Once Upon a Bedtime, the channel where you can listen to gentle and sweet fairy tales every night, helping you have peaceful sleep and beautiful dreams. Today, I'm going to tell you a very special story, filled with wonderful surprises waiting to be discovered. Now, lie down comfortably, pull up your cozy blanket, close your eyes, and let your imagination fly far away. Now, I want you to take a deep, slow breath in and gently breathe out. Let's do that again. Breathe in deeply and breathe out slowly. Feel each breath bringing calmness and peace to your body. Each of your toes, your feet, your legs, your arms, and your shoulders are becoming relaxed and lighter. Are you ready? Let's enter the magical world of fairy tales together. Claudia sat at her easel, gazing out the tall, arched window at the peaceful stretch of countryside behind her home. Birds flitted between trees and bushes, chirping away, their song so familiar she could name the species just by listening. Off in the distance, a combine harvester rumbled gently across the fields, its low hum barely making its way through the breeze. But Claudia heard it. She always did. She smiled, feeling at peace. This spot by the window had been her favorite place for as long as she could remember. Thousands of times she'd sat here, watching the seasons change, soaking in the view, and yet every single time felt like the first. The view never got old. This house, though modest and a bit worn, creaky floorboards, aged carpets, was home. It had belonged to her family for generations. More than a place to live, it was a treasure trove of memories. It grounded her. She took a deep breath, cool air drifting in from outside, and picked up her brush. Time to create something new. As she dipped into her paints, mixing soft tones and light shades, her mind started to wander, back to when she was a little girl. There was one memory that always came to mind when she was in this spot. It was late summer, one of those hot, sticky days where even the breeze seemed too lazy to move. Claudia was about 6 or 7, lying on her bedroom floor with a coloring book and a box of crayons. She was completely immersed in her world of wildlife and magical creatures, while downstairs, her parents bustled about with house chores, humming cheerful tunes. Their dog was out in the garden, nose to the ground, searching for whatever mysterious scent had captured his attention. Every window and door was open to let the air flow through, trying to keep the house cool in the heat. Then, suddenly, the light changed. The golden sunlight disappeared, replaced by a strange gray tint. Claudia looked up. Her room had gone so dim she could hardly see the coloring book in front of her. Curious and a little unsure, she wandered downstairs to find her parents. That's when the sky opened up. Rain poured from the heavens, wild and unrelenting. Her parents sprang into action, rushing to close windows and doors, trying to save the laundry from the clothesline. A massive clap of thunder exploded above the house, so loud the walls seemed to vibrate. The family dog bolted inside and ran straight upstairs. Claudia followed, both of them ending up under her bed, hiding from the storm. She pressed her hands over her ears, clinging to the dog for comfort. But as quickly as the storm arrived, it started to pass. The thunder faded into the distance. Rain slowed to a drizzle. Her parents peeked into the room, and Claudia slid out from under the bed just enough to be seen. They knelt down beside her, checking to make sure she was okay. Then her father said, "Come on, sweetheart. Something magical's happening." Claudia hesitated, still a bit shaken, but curiosity won out, and she followed them down to the study. When she reached the window, her eyes widened. The storm clouds had started to break apart. Sunlight streamed through in golden beams, and patches of blue sky returned. But in the middle of it all was something she'd never seen before. An enormous rainbow stretched out across the sky like a bridge between worlds. It arched high above the land, glowing with 6, 7, maybe more colors. Claudia stood in awe. "Do you know what that is?" her dad asked. She shook her head slowly, still speechless. "It's called a rainbow," he said gently. Even the name sounded magical to her. "After every storm comes a rainbow," her mom added. "It's a sign that the thunder and lightning are gone and everything is safe again." That moment stuck with Claudia forever. It didn't just make her feel safe, it sparked something inside her, a fascination, a calling. And when her dad added, "They say there's a pot of gold at the end of every rainbow," her imagination took off. She looked through the window, but both ends of the rainbow were hidden behind the rolling hills. Still, she was determined. "One day," she said, "I'm going to find it." Her parents chuckled, but there was something in their smiles, a belief in her, even then. From that day on, Claudia's walls began to fill with rainbows, crayon rainbows, painted ones, rainbows drawn in marker, in pencil, in chalk, each one brighter and more detailed than the last. Every time it rained, she'd rush to the study window, hoping to see the sky bloom in color, and she didn't stop there. Her mother was a huge fan of Claude Monet. Their study was filled with prints of his watercolors, fields of flowers, hazy reflections, and dreamy skies. Claudia's name, in fact, was a tribute to the great French artist. She grew up studying his brushwork, mesmerized by how he captured the mood of a moment. On her 10th birthday, her parents gifted her something that would change everything, a proper set of watercolor paints. She tore open the paper with excitement, and a small handwritten note slipped into her lap. "To our dear Claudia, may your imagination run free and your creativity thrive. Always chase the rainbow." She kept that note close to her heart. While other kids obsessed over pop stars and playground drama, Claudia spent her time painting. She listened to her art teachers, absorbed everything they had to say, and developed a unique style, one that blended realism with wonder. She didn't show her work to her friends, not out of pride, but fear. What if they didn't get it? What if they laughed? So she kept her paintings private, but that didn't stop her from creating them. She wandered meadows, capturing flowers and skies with her camera, then recreated them on canvas. She learned how rainbows formed, sunlight hitting raindrops, bending and bouncing light back to the eye. She understood the science, but in her heart, they still felt like magic. A little part of her never stopped believing in her dad's pot of gold. Eventually, Claudia wanted more than just her home fields. She wanted to see the world. And more than that, she wanted to see rainbows in every corner of it. Claudia's travels became a mission, a beautiful, weather-dependent mission. She studied seasonal patterns, tracked rainfall forecasts, and researched countries where sunshine and rain loved to dance together, her goal to chase rainbows across the globe. But it wasn't always easy. She spent days, sometimes weeks, waiting watching the skies in remote towns, mountainsides, and coastal villages, and more often than not, she'd leave without a single rainbow in sight. It could be frustrating, disheartening even, but she never gave up. Because when everything aligned, when the rain finally let up and the sun peeked through, the magic was always worth the wait. She'd sit in quiet cafes or in her car parked beside wild landscapes, and as the clouds began to shift and the drizzle tapered off, her camera would be ready, and when the rainbow finally appeared, soft at first, then bursting into color, Claudia would feel that familiar rush. Goosebumps, a lump in her throat, the same wonder she felt as a child hiding under the bed with her dog. She captured rainbows over lavender fields in France, over charming windmills in the Netherlands, across sunflower farms in Florida, even over the white sand beaches of the Caribbean, and every rainbow was different. Some were soft and pastel, others bold and brilliant. Some stretched from horizon to horizon, while others flickered in and out between the clouds. Back home, her parents would gather around as she showed them each new painting. They never stopped being amazed. Claudia described every trip, every scene, and every moment that inspired her work. The stories behind the paintings were just as beautiful as the art itself. To her, it was just a passion, a hobby, a way to freeze happiness on canvas. She never saw it as anything more than that, until one conversation with her mom changed everything. They were sitting together in the study, flipping through a new stack of paintings. Claudia's mom paused, looking over one of the latest landscapes. "You do know," she said, "that Monet became famous for this, for exactly this." Claudia chuckled shyly. "I mean it," her mom continued. "Your paintings are breathtaking, truly some of the best I've ever seen. If he could do it, why not you?" Claudia looked at her mom, unsure how to respond. Of course, the thought had crossed her mind before. Exhibitions, galleries, maybe even selling her work. But the fear always crept in. What if people didn't like it? What if they laughed, like she'd worried as a teenager? But her mom wasn't done. "You don't need to make money if that's not what you want. But these paintings deserve to be seen. They can't just live on our walls forever." That night, Claudia sat by the same window where it all began, thinking about what her mom had said. She thought about all the exhibitions she'd visited on her travels, big halls filled with works by artists from all over the world. She thought about her childhood dream of becoming like Monet. And still, she didn't quite believe she was good enough. But the next morning, something changed. Rain was tapping against her bedroom window, the kind of rain that hints at something special. A thin stream of sunlight had snuck through the curtain. Claudia shot up, ran to the study, and there it was, a rainbow. She smiled, heart swelling with the same feeling she'd known since she was a child. She heard the words in her mind like they were being whispered again. Always chase the rainbow. Without another moment of hesitation, she found the local newspaper her parents had been reading. There it was, a grand exhibition being held in the town hall of a nearby city. A prestigious event. Big-name critics. A once-in-a-lifetime kind of thing, and they were looking for submissions from local artists. Claudia's fingers trembled slightly as she found the contact details and sent a message. She figured the chance of getting in was slim. It was probably full already, but it was worth a try. To her surprise, they replied the very next day. The organizers were still searching for fresh talent, especially local artists who specialized in landscapes. It was as if the universe had been waiting for her to reach out. Claudia loaded up her car with a selection of paintings. Her hands shook as she carried them into the town hall. The building itself was grand, historic, with vaulted ceilings and tall windows, just like the one in her home. She was greeted by two curators, both dressed to the nines. One a tall, graceful woman, the other a sharp-eyed man with an elegant air. They took their time looking through her collection. Piece by piece, their faces lit up with admiration. They commented on the color, the detail, the emotion in each landscape. With every kind word, Claudia's confidence grew just a little more. There were scenes of wildflower meadows, gentle brooks flowing through thick forests, little cottages nestled in golden fields. Every painting brought a new reaction. Soft gasps, nods of approval, murmured compliments. And then they reached the final piece. Claudia had tucked it at the bottom of the pile. It was one of her first watercolors. The rainbow arched above the countryside behind her childhood home. The same rainbow that started it all. She hadn't expected them to like it. She thought it was too simple, too sentimental. But as the two organizers studied it, they went completely silent. Their expression shifted from impressed to something deeper, something like awe. Finally, the man spoke. "I think this might be the most beautiful landscape I've ever seen." The woman nodded, almost breathless. "It's extraordinary. The rainbow, the light, the emotion in it. It's perfect." They asked her, right there and then, if they could make that painting the centerpiece of the exhibition, the featured work, the showstopper. Claudia was stunned. She tried to decline the offer of payment, but the man insisted. "This deserves to be shared with the world," he told her. And it didn't stop there. They wanted more of her work, everything she was willing to display. They sent out word to the art critics who were set to attend. "You need to see this artist. You need to see her rainbows." 2 weeks later, the grand town hall was buzzing with life. Claudia walked into the exhibition, heart pounding in her chest. The main room had been transformed into a beautiful gallery space, and right in the center, beneath a spotlight, was her rainbow painting, the same one from that rainy childhood afternoon. All around the hall, her other works were proudly on display. Landscapes from around the world, watercolors of distant valleys and quiet fields, scenes bursting with color, emotion, and memory. People moved slowly through the room, whispering to one another, pointing at the fine details. Journalists scribbled in notebooks. Photographers snapped pictures. And Claudia stood quietly in the background, almost unable to believe any of it was real. One by one, art critics approached her, some with warm smiles, others with visible awe. They asked her questions about her process, her inspirations, her journeys. But more than anything, they wanted to talk about the rainbow. That painting stirred something in people. It reminded them of childhood, of peace, of beauty after chaos. They asked her where she had been hiding. "This is actually the first time I've shared my work publicly," Claudia admitted. Their eyes widened. Offers poured in. A gallery owner from Paris had heard about her rainbow over the lavender fields and begged her to allow it to be displayed in his collection. A prominent American art critic asked if she'd be willing to visit his home state and paint his favorite landscapes. A London publishing house wanted to feature her in an upcoming book about modern watercolor artists. It was overwhelming, but in the best possible way. News of Claudia's art spread fast. Before long, her work was appearing in galleries and exhibitions all over the world. Magazines printed her story. Online articles titled her The Rainbow Whisperer and The Soul of the Skies. She even gave a few interviews, though she was never quite comfortable with the spotlight. It wasn't long before her nickname caught on, Claudia, the Rainbow Princess. But despite all the attention, Claudia never changed. She stayed humble, grateful, grounded. Her passion for art wasn't about fame or wealth. It was about capturing beauty, sharing it, preserving it. As her career blossomed, so did her personal life. She met the love of her life during one of her exhibitions abroad. He was gentle, kind, and totally captivated by her work and by her. They married, and together they raised 2 wonderful children. But no matter how successful she became, Claudia never left her childhood home. Even after her parents passed, and even though they had encouraged her to move somewhere grander, she stayed. That old, slightly crooked house with its creaky floorboards and worn carpets, that was where her story began. That window, overlooking the countryside, was her muse. It was sacred to her, and with her success, she gave back. Claudia used much of her earnings to protect the landscape around her home. She helped fund nature reserves, conservation projects, and art programs for local schools. Her goal wasn't just to paint the world's beauty, but to help preserve it for future generations. Aspiring artists often asked her, "What's your secret? What's the key to your success?" Claudia always gave the same answer. "I followed what made me happiest. I chased the things that lit me up inside, and I never stopped chasing the rainbow." Years passed, but Claudia's passion never faded. She continued to travel, to paint, and to teach. Her children grew up surrounded by art and nature just like she did. And whenever it rained, Claudia would still sit by that tall, arched window, hoping to catch a glimpse of a rainbow stretching across the sky. That one painting, the rainbow over her childhood home, remained her signature piece. It was reproduced millions of times, printed on calendars, greeting cards, museum walls, and homes all around the world, and yet the original still hung in the same spot in her study. It was more than just a painting. It was a reminder that beauty can grow from storms, a reminder to dream wildly and love deeply, a reminder that the magic we chase as children can shape our entire lives. Now, sitting once again by her easel, brush in hand, Claudia smiled. The birds were still singing outside. The hum of distant farm machinery had long since faded. The sky above her was soft and blue, and just like so many times before, she dipped her brush into the colors, ready to paint, ready to chase the next rainbow. Thanks for being here for Claudia's story. If you enjoyed it, consider subscribing for more long-form stories just like this one. Stories about passion, wonder, and chasing your own kind of magic. Until next time, take care, keep dreaming, and always, always chase the rainbow. And that brings today's story to an end. How do you feel, my dear ones? Wasn't it exciting and meaningful? I hope you'll always remember the wonderful lessons and beautiful moments from today's tale. If you enjoyed today's story, don't forget to give it a lovely little like and share it with your friends so everyone can have fun together. And remember to subscribe to the Once Upon a Bedtime channel so you can listen to more wonderful fairy tales every single night. Now it's time to gently close your eyes and let beautiful dreams take you far away into a magical world. Sleep tight, sleep deep, and dream sweetly. I'll see you again in the next bedtime story, sending you lots of love. Good night, my dear little friend.